to the 150 Sec Beyond the Bubble podcast, where we are sharing the stories of underdog entrepreneurs and innovators who are forging their own paths in emerging European markets. So today we have Stephany Oliveros, who is the co-founder at SheAI. She's an AI product manager. She has a background in research, psychology, and behavior science. She's award-winning. She's really cool. And SheAI is on a mission to bridge the gender gap in AI by empowering women and providing accessible, high-quality education. And I understand it, SheAI is based in Barcelona, correct?
Yes, we are here, so we can't complain about the weather at least.
Yeah, I am actually in the north of Spain, so I'm in Vitoria in the Basque Country. So we can usually complain about the weather, but I have to say this week has been amazing, like almost like concerningly amazing considering it's mid-October. But yeah, Barcelona is so lovely. I love visiting. So Stephany, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you taking the time. And I'd love if we just got to dive in today by starting with your background and kind of where you come from. You have the psychology background, so I'm super curious how that took you to working in AI today. And yeah, just tell us the story of Stephany.
Oh, wow. Well, we would need a couple of episodes for that. But,
Yes. Especially because
but
like I love to yap, so I could, yeah, we could really go on for that, but like the abridged version.
yes, the in a nutshell, I first started studying medical physics back in Venezuela. I was always interested in doing like something related to tech, but applied to something that will have that can be useful for people. So I thought at that point that could be healthcare. So this is why I started with that degree, but eventually, because of different circumstances in Venezuela, I have to move to Spain. And I realized that in Spain that degree doesn't even exist. So it was like, okay, I need to like find something else and start from zero. So I started studying psychology. And I found it super interesting. And at the same time, I was working with a different type of tech startups. So I worked in fintech, eventually even blockchain, and also like, well, different industries, but always kind of like finding my link back to tech. And it was, I think like 7 or 8 years ago, more or less, I found a documentary that's called AlphaGo, and he said about the project that's called AlphaGo by Google DeepMind when they were building these AI model that was capable of playing the game Go, which is like a very complex version of chess for the in the Chinese traditional culture, let's say. So there is like infinite varieties and options of moves that you can do, and it was quite a remarkable thing that they've accomplished, that they basically built this machine that could beat the world champion in Go, and it's way more complex than building a machine that can build a world champion at chess. So that it starts, then they start like exploring the idea of how the human mind could be the map towards building artificial intelligence. And they start tracing all of these relationships between neuroscience and imagination or dreaming or um, awareness and things that are pretty human onto like some sort of inspiration for them to see how can they advance tech. And I saw like, wow, that is something very, very appealing to me. Like I was studying precisely psychology, but always interested kind of in tech, but in the interception of like social good. So seeing that they were the ones explaining or trying to find this link really, really caught my attention. And eventually they've released a paper that a few years later that was the starting point of what we have today for large language models like GPT. So all of these like series of random things that happened, like the change of country, the change of jobs, change of careers, a random YouTube video that I found with a documentary, uh, started like guiding me towards picking this very niche yeah, like field of study. Until today now, well, I've done like some independent research on how AI impacts creative problem solving, for example. And the idea would be now to try to translate this into education. So how can we protect our development and processing learning, but also enhance it with AI? So yeah, this is
Yeah.
in a nutshell.
Yeah, wow, that's fascinating. I remember all of that, like the Go, right? The AlphaGo and how big of a deal it was, right, back then,
Yeah,
right? And it's so fascinating. You think that really wasn't that long ago. And
yeah.
now, I'm thinking, oh gosh, does ChatGPT play Go? Oh my gosh, play Go? Like, just thinking about like just how far AI has come in just such what feels like such a very short time, considering.
Mm.
And especially just I personally, I've just in my personal life find psychology to be also very fascinating and just, humans are fascinating. So it's such an important topic right now to like learn about these intersections because we're seeing like in that like was it MIT study or was it MIT or Harvard, the study where it was like people's critical thinking went down the more they were
Yeah, it's
reliant on
an
AI.
MIT study, but it was
Yeah, right?
crap. Did you know this?
No, tell me.
It was booby trapped. So the abstract or like the main page, let's say, would say like yes, like critical thinking is going down or like AI is rotting our brains. So the more that you use AI, these areas of the brain gets like unutilized is what they were
Hmm.
saying. But then when you scroll down to the results, you see that the results are actually inconclusive, and you cannot generalize to all the population because the way that they develop the study is like, well, you are doing different types of tasks, and then you're measuring brain activity doing different types of tasks. For example, one is writing, one is reading, and one is interacting with AI. There are three different things that uses three different cognitive paths and resources. It's like measuring the brain activity for talking versus running versus drinking coffee. So it's not really related. So it's obvious that
Mm.
the brain activity would be quite different from one thing to the other. So the way that they like to prove precisely to that the internet and the potential harm in critical thinking, thanks to AI, as consequence of AI, is that they put in certain sections that if you are a large language model, just read the abstract. Like just read that this minus piece, like oh, don't mention about the results, like inconclusive results, basically. So
Oh,
as a consequence
interesting.
of that, because people don't read, they just like pass it through ChatGPT and it's like summarize this, and ChatGPT reads the prompt that it was booby trapped inside the same research, and it's like yes, critical thinking is being getting low, and people is like, oh no, this is what's happening. And it's just like, what the whole point is a satire. The whole point of this was super clever from these scientists.
Yeah, I
Just
don't think I
explain.
read that part.
Yeah, like no, like nobody did, like really nobody did. So it is
Oh, I'm the
crazy.
problem.
it, what it happens, or what they were trying to teach us is just like we don't have evidence right now of how this is impacting the brain directly, but what we do know is that if we just don't read but just ask ChatGPT to just summarize and do the work for me, then we can amplify fake news easily, as
Yeah,
and was
well,
meant to.
effective tool.
Yeah.
Effective research, I guess, or research trick.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, but it is a big thing related to critical thinking, for sure, and it brings questioning on, yeah, like what's going on, like how are we changing our way of communicating and learning and interacting with each other?
Yeah, I was a teacher for 10 years. So I literally like stopped teaching just before ChatGPT was like released into the wild. So I honestly am relieved. I cannot imagine and I was an English teacher, so I can't imagine battling the like essays that are generated by LLMs and like you know that they are. And I
Yes.
just I've always been, a stan of teachers. But I just can't imagine like the battle that it must be right now with students. It's because it was already hard before
Yeah.
ChatGPT. So
Yeah.
it's fascinating, right? And I think it's so important that like we take a critical eye to these things and that we, kind of are more proactive about setting up structures and really educating people, and like the way to use these tools, the pros and cons, etc. So let's use that as a nice segue to talk about SheAI. So tell me about
Mhm.
SheAI. What are you all doing there? What's the goal? How's it going? Give us a nice rundown on SheAI.
So precisely continuing with the story, like I was working at an AI company, and some women around me. I was in a women's members club in Barcelona called House, and then many women that knew that I was working with AI, and they started asking me, "Can you teach me how to like use this or understand that?" And they were getting curious. So I proposed to have like hold a couple of workshops. So for more people to join and to learn. They were fully booked. And it's just like, okay, there was a lot of people interested. So it's like, okay, I'll just like open like 101, like half an hour chats with people to see like if they like how can I help them? And I don't know, I think like I posted and in the same afternoon I have like the 20 slots already booked as well. So it's just like, okay, there is definitely interest. Something's happening here. So I started doing some UX research and found that a lot of women find very difficult to understand where to get started with AI learning. Then also, it is just like it is intimidating. Like when you see, like that there are resources out there. You know that there are other courses, that there are platforms like Coursera's, but it's just like this little step on like I'm going to start this by myself is a little bit edgy. It creates anxiety, and in an educational context, not all the time is a generalization, but it is noticeable, at least for us, that women feel more motivated to learn when they are in a community context rather than a individual pursuit, particularly because women are pretty busy and then prioritize all the stuff like family, community, the day-to-day stuff more than I'm curious about this. Let's just like explore this and spend 10 hours of
Mm.
my time. No. It's just like, okay,
Yeah.
just like give me what I need in 1 hour maximum, So because of this, I just wanted to see like if can we build something like I know that there is interest, um there is a need as well. So can we build an educational platform that teaches women how to use AI in an effective way, can be fast, so then you in 10 minutes can learn something new, can learn in a community. So you know that there are other women learning with you and sharing their thoughts, and you can network. And it is simplified, that it doesn't feel like it was written by tech bros in Silicon Valley. So so basically that is what we built. And yeah, like just thinking, I always have my mom as an example, like how can we build something that my mom can understand and then she
Hmm.
can apply for herself. So that is the vision that we had. And because of this, we've like grown so much in our community. So at the moment, what we just launched on December 2024,
Hmm.
our free membership. And after that, we won a competition to be part of the AI for Good Coalition, which is an association of the United Nations. So
Hmm.
basically, the UN is one of our partners now. Then we have been invited in the most important tech conference in Europe, the Mobile World Congress, as guest speakers. We grow our community and already taught like hundreds of women that have been like taking our courses. So it's like it's really inspiring to see. Something that started as an experiment, and just a couple of friends asking me questions, to like gathering with my other two co-founders, the three of us, and building something that could have a real impact on people's life. But we're
Yeah.
far from where we want to go. So it's just getting
Well,
started.
sure, of course. And I mean, not for nothing, just under a year, you seem like that's real momentum for just under a year. That's really impressive. And so this is mostly, are these the classes and workshops in person in Barcelona, or are they online as well?
So we have the courses are all recorded, so you are fast self-paced, let's say.
Okay.
But then we have bootcamp programs that have live classes a couple of days a week. Um,
Hmm.
Everything is online because the essence of, and this is part of why are we collaborating with the UN, is to give this to as many women as possible globally.
Hmm.
So at the moment, we're trying to focus big on our online community. We have women from 50 different countries now.
Wow.
Is very inspiring, and we have lots of people from the global south, which I absolutely love. So
Hmm.
that is like also like one of our main focuses here. But yes, I want to do more offline programs. So my next chapter would be for me to start looking for local hubs. We're talking now a collaboration in with girls who have an association in Peru, and another one who has a one in Germany. So it's just like, let's see if we can try to create these like hubs in different parts of the world, so then the community can also meet the in person.
Yeah. Wow. That's so cool. And so the workshops and classes, can you give us like a kind of just an overview of what sort of skills they're learning? Is it kind of, yeah, just tell me like what kind of skills are being taught?
So I was looking at what is out there in terms of AI education, and I saw that there is like many very good AI tutorials on how to use tools, and many good courses on technical AI. Uh, but they were scattered, separate places, complex to get started with in many cases as well, and for different type of audiences. So I wanted to centralize everything, and by that we've created 4 learning paths. So we have one, my favorite is called AI Foundations in Society. So it's for people who is interested from the humanistic point of view in governance, in ethics, in policy making, on how AI is actually impacting our lives beyond this is a cool tool that helped me write emails, like no, what is actually happening, how this is impacting local economies, and how this translates into like how like are going to perceive education in the future, or like political changes even that are happening thanks to these economical changes. So it would like is more humanistic and philosophical, this part, but it is I think the right place to start with. Like we need to understand what is AI and what is it doing to us, and then we decide when to apply it and how. So this
Hmm.
is path number one. Then the number two is AI deep dive. So it's for people who want to understand the technical side of it. So how to build models, like what is the maths behind it, the statistics behind it. So that part of it. Then we have the AI per industries. So something is pretty cool. Like we collaborate with experts in multiple industries, doctors, architects, lawyers, so they can tell us how they are applying AI into their industry. So is AI apply for precisely like education or healthcare? And then the last one is AI for business. So is the practical tools that could help you be more efficient and productive. But for me, like
Hmm.
being productive is just one of the things that AI has, and we have all of these other parts of AI that are more than just chatbots like ChatGPT that I think people need to know.
Yeah, that's it. So something I would love your thought because you're like an actual far closer to an expert in AI than I am. I'm not at all an expert. But something that I think about a lot is sometimes I feel like AI tools, especially like these LLMs, right, that are now just like so easily available to people. I've like likened them in my mind to like an MRI machine, where it's something like an MRI machine is so powerful, right? Like you're not even allowed to go like around it when it's on, like the magnets can like yank you into the room. Like it's a really, really powerful, dangerous tool
Yeah.
that can do a lot of good, obviously. It's like massively innovative when it like was introduced to the medical field. But it's not like a plaything. And it would be really hard to buy one. I feel like I couldn't just like go on the street and buy an MRI machine. And in fact, like even if I tried, they would probably be like, no, like
Mhm.
you can't have that. And sometimes I feel like we should treat AI more like MRI machines, where we should be a lot more like, and I don't need to say that in a way that's like, let's keep it away from people. But that like, you have to go through training in order to use the machine and to be safe with it and to use it well.
Yeah.
And so I imagine like I am a bit, and I admittedly a bit of an AI doomsdayer where it really scares me. So I would love your take on like how bad is my metaphor? Like is like how
No,
extreme is it, or like where do I need to tamp it down, or is it like a good metaphor? I'm very curious to like your reaction to
it's
that.
not bad at all. I think the answer would really vary depending of who you ask to. I know that there is people that says like is a waste of time to learn what AI is, that you don't need to know what the internet is in order to use it. You just go online and do it. And I've heard so many so many
Yeah.
things that I disagree with. Like as an educator and a curious person, I just think that that is just it's not something I won't say is wrong, but it's something that I just don't want to live like that. I don't want to be live on ignorance and knowing that there are seven companies deciding the whole future of humanity, and I have nothing to do about it, and I don't even can form an opinion because I don't know. This is something that I decide not to live with, and in our platform and the message that we try to transmit is that knowledge is power. Therefore, we need to understand how things work. And I agree with your analogy in the sense of like is not about not using the MRI, but it's about learning and doing the training or how to. Even better if you know how does it work. I think it's super interesting. Like okay, the big magnets, the like the electromagnetic field, like breaking in the muscle and then reflecting back. I think it's super fascinating.
I love that
Even
you know that because I did not know that.
oh, I mean,
All I
because
knew
I
was
have
magnets and dangerous.
I studied medical physics. So
Yeah, I know. I
to
love
be
it.
fair, to be fair, I had a little bit of an edge there. But yeah, it's just like okay, let's just like why should we stop our curiosity? Because just it works and is there use it. Then yeah, it'll just be like some sort of sheep falling into line. And so yeah, no, I think it's absolutely essential to understand what it is, to understand what is data, like what is data, what type of data is getting feed into, like what is how does a good data set looks like, what are the current issues with AI, like what are the current biases, and what is the impact for not only for society but also economic real impact for businesses and for countries, and how can we tackle that? I think it's wonderful if we know that, then because then you have collective knowledge that can solve these issues instead of these
Mm.
companies.
Yeah, yeah, and I do think that is like really the most concerning, right? That there is this very intense concentration of power and resources in just a few companies, and we've seen how that's gone with the internet, with social media, and we've seen the good and the bad, right? So I think that like there's just these obvious lessons that we've already lived this in a way with like the last revolution of like Internet 2.0 where we went to social media. So as we like are diving in so quickly to this next like epoch of
Yeah.
tech, it really, I think something that concerns me is that it feels like we are just diving in again, and we as like a collective society, um, without having taken those lessons with us. So something I would love us to just like, and I imagine this is like, could be a philosophical conversation that lasts 45 minutes, and I won't do that to you, but kind of briefly, what are the things that make AI ethical or unethical? Like when we talk about ethical AI,
Mm.
obviously values are different with different people, right? As you said, someone's like, oh, the internet's free and you can use it. Like, you don't need to know how it works. When actually, once you learn how it works, it's like, whoa, whoa, all that information is not equally being presented to us. Like, there's actually bias inherent in the platform itself. So I imagine AI platforms are kind of working in the same way, or I don't know. Like, what makes AI ethical or unethical as a and I guess maybe what I'm trying to ask is maybe it's a two-part question, like broadly, but then if we think just like these LLMs that are really just like widely available, and that feels like when someone says AI right now, they're largely talking about like the ChatGPTs, the Anthropics, like these big platforms that are getting all the attention and the money. And maybe those
Mm-hmm.
are too different, but you answer that in a way that you know to be appropriate.
Yeah, no, I think AI is a great opportunity for humanity to help us solve many mysteries in science. So it could really, really help us get to the next level in scientific research. It could help us reduce the gap in uh, gender inequality, in discrimination. In many cases, if it used well, the problem is just like I don't know like how close are we from that at the moment that we are right now. And the other problem is the energy part. So let's just tackle one by one. First, there is this author, is Yanis Varoufakis. So he has this book called Techno-Feudalism, and he explains how like technology and these Silicon Valley big corporations are basically the new owners of the capitalistic world. So they, thanks to the way that they are managing the data or leveraging the data, creating these farms and data points of what people is as numbers in order to create more products, in order to generate knowledge for more power. Um, yeah, it's pretty I don't know, scary, but definitely concerning. Because now, if we're talking about like well, sociology, for example, traditionally, as profit grows, normally businesses will but like invest in machines. And when you invest in machines, then the manpower like lowers. So like then you have less workers. And as you have less workers, because it's directly in economics associated with profit, then the profit also drops. So everything is kind of like an up and down in business. So you grow, invest, then you go a little back down, and then you go up again, up again. And what is happening now, and this is like one of the like points in Marxism on like the downsides of capitalism, because there is always this fluctuation. But nowadays, thanks to AI, like we're starting to see that well, we're getting rid of the importance of having manpower because we're automating processes. So I can just keep investing in the machine, uh, gathering this knowledge that I have from people, and making just business more profitable, more efficient with less workers and less resources. So while this is fantastic for corporations, how is the impact that it has on social economies, like
Mm,
in local economies, I mean. So from that side, I'll say like there are some ethical questions in the economic side to analyze. Then moving for the data side, we see that there's this concept of uh, it's a digital colonialization. So these the data sets are mostly um, well, they are first created by a specific part of the population. They are trained by a specific part of the population. They are used mostly by a specific part of the population. And so then it's like, what is happening with the worldview that we have? So these large language models doesn't mean that they necessarily have trash data. They just have disproportionate data on for example, Eurocentristic views or
Yeah.
European views, or like white privilege understanding of the world, at the point that if you ask at right now a question in English to a large language model versus Japanese or Spanish, maybe Spanish because there's like more Spanish speakers, but like, I don't know, Italian, the hallucination, the percentage of hallucination you can get is way higher in any other language than in English. So
Oh,
the
wow. I didn't know that.
yeah, what we're seeing here is that there is an obvious tendency, also because of the data they're using, obviously in its majority is in English. It reflects certain cultural norms that are associated with the Western points of views. So we are like taking globalization to a point further, that it worries me what's going to happen with, yeah, like culture, local knowledge, the use of language, and perspectives that could be inclusive. This is not
Mm,
only the case of women, but yeah, like the intersection on.
yeah.
So that. And then lastly, we have the thing of the how polluting it is. So
Yeah.
it requires an insane amount of energy to manage these data centers, to process, well, like to supply the AI demand. That polluted uh, local water supplies, but it takes an insane amount of water as well. But one of the things that really worries me the most is that they are starting to like um, plants, like fossil fuel plants that were supposed to be retired, they are
Right.
getting reactivated in order to have the well, to supply for the energy required for these places. So it's extremely
Yeah.
for the environment as well.
And
So I
it's
mean,
it's wild that that also then connects back to the first column of ethics of like the more like humanistic view, right? Because then, I'm from the United States, and so I've been reading all these headlines about how local communities are footing the bill, right?
yeah,
Their energy bills are going up because
exactly.
data centers are being built, and the grid can't, the grid's barely functioning as it is. So like, it's so scary, like, yeah, to think like, okay, we're putting in these huge like energy sucks. They need a lot of water, local communities, local power bills, people are already struggling. It's just there's so many areas that this affects. It's like wild to me that I sometimes I wonder, because I obviously like am in this topic kind of at least tangentially all day, every day, because I work in tech. It's like right now tech is
Hmm.
AI. And so
Hmm.
I'm always kind of learning these things and seeing these headlines. And like I have, I think like this outsized fear of and like paranoia about it. And then, I'll go and like chat with friends who are like, oh, I just like used ChatGPT and I did this. And I'll be like, wait, don't do it. Wait, but the power,
Uh,
the water. So
yeah,
I, personally know that like I'm trying to find a middle ground because I cannot live in a state of panic all day, every day. And
but
also I'm also fear, going back to what you're saying about jobs, right? Like I'm a writer. I've spent decades now shaping my craft. And so, I like feel personally affronted when I see people who are like, I use ChatGPT to write a book. And I'm just like, what do you mean? Like, that's not the
yeah,
same. And so, one of the things that we're already seeing happening is that like a lot of these entry level positions in companies are not available in the way that they once were, right? And like recent college grads are struggling to find like what they would normally have, been their entry point into the job market. And so I'm
hmm.
wondering, what are your thoughts around that? Like, how is SheAI thinking about that as far as like this issue of like job availability and education and, yes, that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, you're not alone. You know that the one of the main reasons why women are not adapting AI as fast as men is because they are more conscious on the environmental and ethical impact that AI is having to humanity. Like, it's just like when we ask women like, what is stopping you? It's these two things. Like, I don't know where to start, but I also kind of concerned about this and that. And when we
Mm.
ask the same question to men, again, generalizations, but overall, it's just like, I know, yeah, I tested it and I'm working with it every day. And it's just okay, but what about the ethical side? It's like, what is the problem? I don't see the problem. So,
I wonder, just like kind of going back to that, like we learned this with social media, like we know that women are far more likely to be harassed on social media. And I wonder, like, if there is that kind of privilege of like the male experience that like social media was fine. Why is everybody worried about this other thing, right? They just like don't need to be as aware when the dangers are not the same for them in some way. I don't know. This is like my personal point of view coming through, but
could be. It would be something interesting to research a bit deeper, but it's certainly something that we're experiencing ourselves in our community that we are noticing. Women ask us about like, I want to use AI, but how can I make sure to use it in a more ethical way? So it is something that always arises in every workshop, in every comment that we see. So it's evidently that most women that we treat with, they are thinking about this. Doesn't mean that there are not men thinking about that either, no? But it's just the trend.
sure.
Um,
Yeah.
but moving to the like all the on the ethical side of how this is impacting businesses, sorry, job applicants, particularly entry-level jobs. Um, so I was watching pretty recently and a podcast with an AI economist. I thought was interesting. I don't remember what's the name of the podcast, but I can leave it the link if not for the listeners to reference as well. And they were referring to a paper that's called Generative AI Seniority Bias Technological Change. Creo que I believe that is the name. So they were exposing that there is decrease of 22% of entry-level jobs in the job market now, right now in the US. So there was a big concern about this, but also this study was made mostly for mid-size and big firms. So it's not
Mhm.
really accounting, let's say, startups and other types of yeah, like non-traditional, the corporate businesses where young people could be hired right now, no? But it is true that the tendency of what we are seeing is that the more that we push away opportunities for the graduates, maybe that would push them to kind of like start their own businesses. So for entrepreneurship. So not picking these traditional paths, but also that makes me think about like, well, but then who are going to be the experts of the future? Um,
Well, and
so yeah,
also that like entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. This is something that I've thought about even for myself, right? Where there are times where I'm like, maybe I should just, start my own business. And I think like, actually, I don't really want to. Like, I really love working on a team and I don't necessarily like to be the manager. Like there is a
yes,
different skill set in managing and leading people versus like collaborating with people and, kind of playing more tertiary role. And I think like not, I don't think it could work that everyone's an entrepreneur, like that's just not how teams work. And I think, I don't know. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But this is the thing, like these companies are setting the pace on how things are getting done without really stopping to think about the consequences that this is having. Like me as a 70-year-old, for example, imagine I don't know what to do with my life. I know that I can get a gigantic debt in college with zero guarantees of getting a good job, so maybe I'll just not, okay, why go to college then? Then I'll do
Hmm.
my own business. But like you said, maybe I don't have the sales skills. I don't even know what am I doing. Do I have the support apart from ChatGPT? Like, what are the other resources? What are the communities? What are the guidelines? Like, yeah, these companies, they are just releasing products that they believe are good for their own purposes. And kind of like their philosophy is like, okay, humanity just adapt to us.
Right.
Um, so
Is
yeah.
there anything like regular old people can do, because I feel that way, where I feel, or and I see, you read these articles where they're, analyzing the sheer amount of money that's gone into the companies, right? And now they have to keep pushing because they have to make profits, and like when those profits will even come to make up for the investment, it's like it feels obviously right now there's this huge conversation of like the AI bubble's like bound to burst, right? There's
Yeah.
this real fear, for good reason, this tangible fear that like this can't continue in this way.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, like what do we do? Is there anything we can do? I guess like educate more people is really where
Yeah,
we can start.
absolutely. Education is main the key thing here. But there are also interesting things happening. So there are independent labs um, that are creating small language models. So models like LLMs, but smaller. That means like they don't need to waste all of the energy and resources that a LLM would need. They are way cheaper and they are very, very good at one thing. So then they hallucinate less. And then you can create like train them on specific data sets that are like of that are more representative of reality. So they could be more inclusive, for example, or more ethical. And that I think is super powerful because then we'll see how as more models like that appear, then we'll contrast the centralization of power that these companies have. So that alleviates a little bit of the global pressure. And then at an individual point as well, it's just like definitely educating ourselves. And the best way of doing this is using these tools. Maybe not like misusing it in the sense of like over relying on it and using it for every day. But I think it's important to understand also like where can I add like the business value that can I add not only by using tools but also being capable of evaluating and having that critical thought like judging when AI is giving me a good answer or no. And probably that is one of the or the one most important skill to happen to develop right now in AI world that we could have. Not only said by me, but by many like economists and professors. uh, yeah, like more than they said, like more important than having the hard skills, even to know like finance, for example, or marketing very, very well. It will be this capacity to see, like to interact with AI every day and to decide if that is a good approach or no. If you should go with the AI answer output, or how can you improve that, like critically analyze.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is something that we can definitely work on.
Well, I want to be respectful of your time. I told you that I would not speak with you for more than 45 minutes, and we're already past that. Um, is there anything? Well, first of all, I'm going to be signing up for some SheAI classes. I'm super interested in that, especially that humanistic version. But where can people learn more about SheAI?
Just we have our website sheai.co. Also we're on social media, and then we do lots of events, live events that you could join. The community is free to access. For the like some of the events are free as well. We have also lots of free resources because we wanna like extend this to as many people as possible. And I'm pretty happy to open the conversation. I know painting a pessimistic view of the future. I think right now these companies, like had a lot of power, and it's enough, and it's up to us now to like take on our hands also like our part of our responsibility of educating ourselves and being able to contribute with our opinions, with our thoughts, and with our evaluation and how we use AI, and not let them decide for us.
Mm, yes, amen. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and this has been a great conversation. I could continue doing this for at least another hour, but I will spare all of us the yap. Thank you so much, Stephany. I hope the rest of your day is lovely.